I have just finished my video on unboxing these absolute beauties. So I'm now going to show you what I do when I get new succulents and how I get them to root, what substrate I use, and just to make them as happy as healthy as possible. So let's get into it. So first things first, these haven't come rooted. They are very woody, so it looks like they're imported. And what happens when they're imported is that their roots are chopped off and they are sprayed with pesticides and different things, so nothing from the country they're imported from comes into the country they're imported to, because that would be really, really bad for our plant life and wildlife. So yeah, these would have been quarantined and sprayed, and that just means that they have no roots and very little stems. So something like this, which has got quite a lot of different parts of the stem, I would actually just chop down, just because the closer you are to the head of the succulent, the more it's going to root, or the quicker it's going to root, because the energy is all up here in the plant. So obviously this is absorbing all the energy from the sunshine and it's all going into this part of the stem, so it's all got to come down quite far before roots will form. So the closer we chop to this part, the easier it is for it to root, basically. So I'm going to get my knife, which is not so sharp, and actually saying that, I'm going to use my different ones instead. So excuse my very rusty old, whatever these are called, I can't say it correctly, so I'm not going to try. Let me just get my spray. I've actually ordered some new pretty ones, so in the next video you might see some beauties, but in the meantime we'll use these. It's quite sharp, but I'll just sterilise them first before you make any cuts. That's just alcohol spray, which I use to treat mealies and other things. And I'm just going to cut away at this stem here, because there's lots of nice fresh stem up here, and it's going to have more chance of rooting if the stems aren't as long, basically. Tempted to do a little bit more. You should be able to see that a bit better now. So there's some really nice pink stem there, which is nice and healthy. We could cut down a bit lower, but I'm going to leave it as it is, like that, and I'm just going to let that callus over. So you can do that in some really dry soil, or you can just leave them out. I think I'm just going to leave them out at the minute. Have I got a pot I can rest them in? So this little tray, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's for tablets and medicines and things, but I found it so handy. I used to use it for leaf props and things. So I'm actually going to chop some of these and just leave it in here for a couple of days, and then I'll come back and update you once they have calloused over. So I'm going to move that up so it doesn't fall off, and then let's have a look at the other ones. So this one is a red one. Again, there's some really old woody stem here. You can actually just kind of flick it off. So I want to get rid of some of that, but these are probably the wrong kind of things to use, but that's all I have. I'm just butchering this now, so I'm going to try and use my knife. You can see the fresh stem in there, but you need to cut away at this stem without hurting the beautiful plant. And that should come away. So there we go, we've got some nice fresh stem there, and that's what I'm going to let callus over, and pop that in here as well. Next one, this one's very woody, but you can see it's got a little root starting there, so I'm just going to cut the very tip off. There we go. So that new root is there, and that's some fresh stem. I would cut higher if that root wasn't there, but it's already started, so it's doing the right thing. Bless it. Oh, they're like little sweets, aren't they? This one's got quite a long stem. Again, it's very woody, because it's obviously got old and stems go woody over age. So I'm going to just chop off this main bit. I'm not going to do it right to the head. Anyway, I'm going to be a bit more ruthless. There we go. So I'm just going to chop it to about there, let it callus over as well. Pop him in there. So this one is really, really woody. It actually looks a little bit suspicious to me that it's not very happy, because you can kind of pull it apart. So you can see the fresh stem right at the top under the leaves. There's like a green fresh colour. So I'm going to try and chop away as much as I can to get to that. So there we go. That's really nice and fresh now. Some of these leaves are looking a bit transparent, but I think that is just the colour of the plant. Well, we will see. But yeah, that's nice and fresh now, so give it more chance to root. And then we've got this one. What do I do? I was talking in the last video about doing an experiment this year on trying to stress succulents, or seeing what they look like stressed compared to not being stressed. And I just wonder if I should try on something that I've received at exactly the same time, it looks exactly the same, and have one in, you know, high nutrient soil getting watered as it should, in a right sized pot, and then one the complete opposite, and just see what happens, see what the appearance looks like over time. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to separate them, although they look so beautiful together. I also think when you get two of them, I get worried that one might die. So if you've got them in separate pods, you've got more chance of one surviving. So that's my logic. So I'm going to be ruthless, make a decision, stick with it. Let's do it. Let's cut this in half. So as you can see, it's already got some beautiful pink roots appearing. So I'm not actually going to cut away any more of that one. That can stay as it is because that looks quite happy. This one I might just cut this tip off, but is that pink one coming from there? No. Oh, there we go. So I can just pull that bit off, and that's revealed some nice fresh stem. So I'm going to keep those two like that. So yeah, I'm going to do some opposites on that. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. My last one. What do I do? What do I do? This is my Super Bowl, my black Mediba. Oh, I don't know what to call it, but this is too woody. I don't think it's going to root anytime soon. This is very old stem, so it does need to be cut anyway. So do I separate into two? What do I do? What do I do? I'm going to cut away at this bottom bit and just see what it looks like. Okay, so I could keep it like that. I could put it into two. What do I do? It is massive, isn't it? I just wonder if it's going to be too big for my lovely pots. I think I'm going to separate it. I think I'm going to have to. God, the decisions. It does look beautiful. But if I separate it, I've got two beautiful plants instead of one. Help me. Wish this was live. I think I'm going to do it. I think it's going to be too big for my pots. So my pots that I have, I've got these terracotta ones. It could fit in, but it's like it really hangs over. And I've got some really nice new white ones, and I think it's going to hang over them as well. I'll get one and just show you. So these are my other pots that I'm trying to get to as well. And it is way too big for them. It's hanging over and that won't fit onto my shelf. So okay, decision made. Let's do it. God, scary. Let's cut. So firstly, I'm probably going to just cut here. Separate them. Now I'm going to, there they are. See, they're both, oh, the shape of that one. They always look a bit squashed, don't they, when you've got one that's obviously outgrowing the other one. So that's kind of pushed into that one. So he can now spread his lovely, beautiful leaves and become an independent woman, man. And that one just looks, yeah, I'm glad I did that. They look good. I'm sure people go, no, don't chop it, but I have. So I want some fresh stem, so I'm going to cut. Again, you can see the change of colour, can't you, from the woody stem here to the fresher stem at the top. So get rid of all of that. Actually, that felt really firm then to cut. So that is the old stem. I think I'm going to leave it like that. Yeah, I nearly went in and cut it again, but no, I'm going to leave it. And then this one, I'm going to cut as well. So quite, oh, what is this little thing underneath? Not sure what that is. Is that an offspring? That's a very unusual one, but it's an unusual plant, so anything is possible. Oh, right, let's cut this one as well. I'm not going to cut this one quite as high, she says. There we go. Leave it like that. So that is the new ones all cut. So you don't have to do that. When I used to leave them as they were with the really woody stems, I just found that they didn't root very quickly, that it would take like 6 months or so, and I really want mine to start rooting quickly. It's now spring, so I want them to make the most of the growing season and spread their wings, their legs, and yeah, get some nice roots and get growing quickly and get them, you know, nice and healthy. So I'm gonna keep them in there for a couple of days. I'll check back and see how they are, and then I will update you. It's now been 4 days, and I've actually got a few new items in this little tray to callus over. These are just some head chops from some plants I did earlier or late last year, and some new little pups, so they're callousing over nicely as well. So let's get having a look at these. So these have calloused over really well. There's no fresh open stem there now, so that's really important to make sure that no infections or mildew or anything gets into the plant, yeah, which would obviously cause rotting. So yeah, they're all calloused over nicely. So let's get them potted on. These ones are so big, but yeah, you can tell all calloused over, nice and dry, and that will hopefully generate some nice new roots. So there's two options once you've got to this stage. You can either keep them in something like this or keep them in a small pot. I've got these new little pots here, so what you could always do is just rest them on that pot, and then obviously that's really easy then to just keep an eye when those roots are starting to grow, and when they become quite a decent size you can then pop them into some soil. So you can either do it that way, yeah, without any soil whatsoever, just have them sitting on a pot. Obviously be very wary not to knock them over because they're very easy to knock when they're on something like that, or you can put them in some dry soil. I wouldn't give them any water until they've got a really decent root system, and what I mean by that is probably the roots coming down to about here in the pot. You need to make sure they're quite established before you let them sit or touch any water, really, because that can lead to rotting. So I think what I'm going to do is a little bit of both. Some plants I'm going to put in some soil, some I'm just going to sit on top, just to see kind of what difference it makes, really. It might be a good idea to do it on my two ones here, which are the same, although saying that, they have already started to root a little bit. But yeah, let's get into it anyway with whatever I decide to do. What I could do actually is just experiment with these two super bowls, so I'll do that, put them into these bigger pots. I will keep one sitting just on the pot like this, just so we can see if there's any roots growing, and the other one I will plant in some fresh soil. So for any succulents, I always mix a nice gritty mixture of soil. So I use 50% compost and 50% horticultural grit. This just makes the soil really well draining. I can't think of the word. So it makes the soil drain a lot quicker. It just means that the roots of the plant don't sit against any really wet soil for long periods of time, because that's obviously what leads to rotting. So yeah, just make sure it's really gritty, 50% of one, 50% the other. If you have them outside and they get a lot of rain, you can increase the percentage of grit, and that'll just make sure it obviously has less water sitting in there, but it might then need watering a little bit more. So it's just kind of trial and error for what works for you really, but I find this ratio really good. So I'm just going to fill my pot with the soil. So you need quite a lot, and I've got the smallest scoop ever, so that was not planned very well. I love these little scoops. They're really good for getting around the side of the plant with any top dressing or anything like that. So yeah, what I'm going to do is just fill the pot mostly to the top. Probably about that would be fine. Just so I can then keep an eye on the plant to see if it is rooting as well. I don't want to disturb it too much if it does start to root, because obviously those roots are going to kind of bury themselves into the soil pretty quickly. I'm so intrigued to see what this is going to be. Is that a new growth? Is that just something that's, you know, attached to a leaf, like a little leaf pup? Who knows? So yeah, that one obviously, like I say, very dry stem, extremely dry soil. There's no moisture in there whatsoever, and that is very, very important. So I'm just going to place that in there, and then these two, with the different techniques I'm doing, one's with soil, one's without, we can just keep an eye and see how they get on. It might be a race to see which one roots quicker, or it might be that they just root at exactly the same time. It's also going to depend on the light levels they get, because they're now going to need quite a lot of light to obviously get the energy from the sun to create those nice new roots. And what you can expect also is that these lower leaves will deplete quite a lot, because they'll use the energy from these lower leaves to make the roots. So yeah, don't worry if that does start happening. It's completely normal, and they will come off eventually once they are completely dry. So this one's starting to deplete a bit now, or quite a lot should I say, but it's still got something in there, so I'll leave that on as that. But anything completely crispy and dry can be removed. Yeah, that's how they obviously generate the new roots. So the two that I separated to try and do a little experiment on, I'm now going to pot up. So it's these two here. I think they're called jades. So what I'm going to do is just fill this pot with the soil. This is quite a gritty mixture. Like I said, it's like 50-50. And I'm going to keep to what I normally do for this one. So that one, like I showed you, is starting to root. So we're going to just pop that in there, and it can then continue to root into that soil. And then once it's got some good growth, I can give it a good water, but that will be several months yet. And then this one, I'm going to treat it a little bit mean, and I'm going to see if there's any colour difference in that. So what I want to do is just make the mixture a lot grittier. So I've just mixed together probably another extra scoop of grit, so it really does look so gritty now, but I'm going to try that and see what happens. I'm just interested to see if that causes it to stress and continue to keep its really beautiful colours. It just means water will drain out really quickly. So obviously when you water any plant like this, you're going to get a lot of mess. But let's see, it's all trial and error, and I find things like this really interesting to know what they're going to do. So there is an extremely gritty mix. And we're just going to pop the roots into that soil. So I just like to make a small hole and pop that in there. And this one's fallen over because I'm being too rough, which is annoying. Didn't even see that. So pop that one back in. So there we go. I need to stop chucking them about. So one is in a very gritty mix, one is a 50-50, and I'm going to see what happens. I might make a separate video on this, so if that's of interest, subscribe and you'll be notified when that video is released. So that's those two done as well. And I think for these small ones, I'm just going to keep an eye on them. I don't know why, but I'm a little bit suspicious. Like this one, quite a strange colour on the end, so I'm probably just going to pop that in with some other ones and just let it root on its own and hope it does root. This one looks good, it's got one small root there. And this one, the only thing that worries me is its leaves are very translucent. I think I'm just going to pull them off. They're a bit squidgy. That normally is a sign of rot, but I'd like to hope not. But I'm going to take those ones off which are a little bit suspicious. And there are a few black dots on there. There's a few black dots around on that bit. So I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to keep a very close eye on it. What do these feel like? No, they're quite firm. So hopefully it's not rot. I just think they do look a little bit translucent. A bit squidgy. But, oh, chuck it. That's not going to help, is it? But it does look really healthy. So I'm going to be positive and hope for the best on this one. I am going to chuck those leaves. And then these three, would they... No, I think that pot is too big. Let's get another one. So I found one of my old terracotta pots. And I'm hoping I can get them to sit in there nicely all together without anyone falling in. More risky. So yeah, I'm going to kind of balance those together and just keep a very close eye on them and hope they root. So this first one I've done over here, I'm going to keep without any soil. And then this one I'm going to add some soil in. Where have I put my scoop? Here it is. So again, fill this up with some soil. Just seem to like to chuck this everywhere. Make a nice hole, and that can just sit in there. So that's what I'm going to do with that one. Keep that one in some soil, whereas this one's going to have no soil. And just, yeah, keep an eye, see if there's any difference with them. Obviously they're completely different plants, and who knows, it's just one of those things. Nature's got its own way of doing things, hasn't it? So I'm just going to keep them on my top shelf in one of my greenhouses, and they are kind of all with my head chops and other things which are growing. So this is like my experiment section. Yeah, so they're all getting exactly the same light levels. These ones possibly a little bit more when the door's open. No, that light is not coming from the door. That is just the general light from the greenhouse. So yep, you can see them all there, sunbathing, and hopefully now going to start growing some nice fresh roots. So I'm going to leave this video here, and I'll be making a part 3. So if that's something you'd like to see, please do subscribe to my channel and you'll be notified of any new videos. So thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time.